Hey guys, welcome back to another F1 podcast. This is the American British Racing Podcast. We're going to try and get this out after every Grand Prix, any F1 news, etc. And let us know if you'd like to be a guest on here. Drop your name in the comments below. We'll try and get you on the next podcast. I know that the other owners like Buraps, Bowen, and Filge as well might be on the podcast soon. But I thought I'd just kick this one off with the Nuremberg Grand Prix. So COVID has really thrown a spanner in the works for all sports around the world. But it's also given us some great spectacles this season. We've gone to the likes of Mugello, we're going to go to Imola, and we had the Nuremberg. So this is the first time we've been back with these modern era cars with the turbo hybrid power units, of course, with the new, wider, bigger cars as well. So they're a lot quicker now. So a lot of unknowns going into this weekend, and the weather didn't help either. It was forecast for rain for the whole weekend, and of course, the race was dry. We've been quite disappointed with that when it said it's going to rain. We're really looking forward to a spicy Grand Prix, but that didn't happen. But FP1, FP2, they was cancelled because of the fog. It meant the medical helicopter couldn't land at the local airport, and we always have to be 20 minutes away from hospital with suitable conditions and facilities, shall we say, for any brain injuries, stuff like that from an F1 event. But so the ambient temperature as well was a big problem for a lot of the teams and Pirelli as well, because when they come out the factory, they have to be kept above 15 degrees at all times. So Pirelli had to send them in heated trucks, make sure that they was in the right temperatures all the way to the circuit. Then it was up to the teams to take them from there, keep them hot. They put them straight into the tire blankets and be really careful with them, otherwise they would fail quite easily. So we saw a lot of drivers really struggling, with that colder conditions. We saw a lot of graining on the cars, and a lot of drivers making some silly mistakes. But in terms of qualification, it was Valtteri Bottas who managed to get the pole position, and he nailed it. A quarter of a second ahead of Lewis Hamilton is a big achievement. It's like me getting ahead of Snipes. That doesn't happen every day. So well done, and credit where it's due to Valtteri Bottas for that. Off the line, going down into turn one, Lewis Hamilton, he had the whole shot. It looked like everyone on that inside line got a better drive going down into turn one. But again, Valtteri Bottas, he really, he made a statement there. He kept his foot in it, even though they was so far off the circuit, jumped across the AstroTurf and held on to that lead for the opening phase of the Grand Prix. Then it was around lap 10. Lewis started to edge closer and closer and closer to the back of Valtteri Bottas, and started to apply the pressure and started to turn the screw. Valtteri was struggling with graining on the front right, made that huge lockup, and that destroyed his race from there. I think Max Verstappen, jumped in because of that, and would have rightly finished P2. But that man, Lewis Hamilton, what can we say about him? He delivers again. 91 victories. He's equaled now Michael Schumacher, the great Schumacher. I mean, how do you compare the two? Are they better? I mean, I think they're on the par with each other. They're great drivers. They're different generations, and it would be hard to put one above the other. But I'm so blessed to have Lewis Hamilton in my life. Being a British F1 fan, he just he keeps on inspiring me, and it's just great to be on this journey with him. See him grow, the excellence, the things that he's achieving. And he's got a few more years in this sport, guys, so he could absolutely smash these records. He looks bang on for a 7th world title. Let me know how many you think he can actually achieve. He looks like the next couple of years, it's going to look like Merc. Ferrari look nowhere. We'll get onto that in a bit. But, let's move over to Valtteri Bottas. I mean, Valtteri Bottas, he's pretty resigned now to Lewis Hamilton. 69 points is the gap between the two drivers, and I think Mercedes will keep him there because he's a good number 2 driver. At the same time, do you want someone really ruffling the feathers of Lewis Hamilton and getting under his skin? If you do, then Max Verstappen may be available. Moving into Red Bull, Max Verstappen, great performance, again delivering the goods, taking that car above and beyond what it's supposed to do, in my opinion. A really difficult car to drive. And P2, some big points, fastest lap as well, remember. So, really impressive from him. But he's going to have some questions in his head as well, because they've lost the Honda power unit now. And that's going to be a big thing. That's going to be a big deal. It looks like Aston Martin will Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing. Of course, that will change next season. So it looks like Red Bull will be purchasing the Honda technology, maybe rebranding it, find a sponsor, whoever comes in and pays the money, maybe they call it Mugen or something like that, or it would be, remains to be seen. But I think that would put a few question marks in Verstappen's mind about the future. Could we see him in a red car? Doesn't look likely. Could we potentially see him in a pink car? Potentially. Could we see him in a Renault? Doubtful, I would say. But, Mercedes, we could see him in a Mercedes. He could be the long-term successor to Lewis Hamilton in that works unit of the Mercedes. Let me know your thoughts where you can see Max ending up in the next few years. But I would say, alongside Lewis Hamilton, would he fancy a challenge? May he get bored? Would he want to silence some of the critics? I think that'd be a good way to do it. But let's see how that goes. With the Red Bull, some big uncertain times ahead. Where do they go from here? It may even put a question mark in terms of their longevity in this sport now. And we'd hate to see them go. They're a great team, but they need a power unit. And it looks like they'll purchase that one. But for the future, I think the new engines, which will come in 2026, will play a key factor in if they will continue within this sport. Alex Albon, he's had a hard time, hasn't he, man? He really can't get to grips with that car. He was looking okay, but some real rookie errors, bashing wheels. Really didn't want to let Gasly pass, did he? Because that was a big statement, Gasly, overtaking Albon in their sort of junior car, as it were. And Albon doesn't look comfortable at all. A lot of pressure on his shoulders, making some mistakes. We saw that incident with Kvyat as well. And it's not looking good for next season. But who do you put in that Red Bull seat yet again? What are the options for them? Before the race, they was even in contact with Hulkenberg because it was Alex Albon. He had an inconclusive test and they had to sort of line someone up. So they was already on the phone saying, hey, are you at the circuit? Could you make a drive with us if we need you to? And I don't think Hulkenberg will be a replacement. I definitely think Sergio Perez could. What do you think about that? Of course, he's going to be a free agent. And we'll get into that in a little while. But uncertain times for Alex Albon. I could see him maybe dropping back down into AlphaTauri, being a partner with Gasly in that team. That would be a strong lineup for the AlphaTauri boys. And I can't see him in the Red Bull for much longer if he keeps on making these silly mistakes. He needs another podium, another good performance on his hands to really cement his place. I've been a big fan of him for a long time, but it's time to deliver now, boy. On to Renault. What a happy boy Cyril will be. Renault, they've had it tough the last few years, and they've really taken a beating in terms of their reputation when it comes to their power unit, etc., from the likes of Red Bull, etc. But they're coming good now. On the high speed tracks, even the high downforce circuits. The car looks good all round. It looks very, very reliable now, and I think it's a bit sweet for Ricciardo. He's scored his first podium now, and he's leaving the team next year. I mean, he's built that project. He's been leading that team, and I think he'll be quite sad to go. And he was so excited, he actually forgot to do his shoey up on the podium, and he had to do it in his motorhome later on. He was like gutted when he realised, but it couldn't happen to a better guy to get a podium. Danny Rick, I think his last podium was it 2018 in Monaco. And we want to see him at the back at the front, fighting for them race wins and even a world championship drive as well. So good to see Danny Rick up there. Ocon struggling up against a big teammate like him. And he's going to have Fernando Alonso joining the team next season as well. So that's going to be a tough ask. Have Renault made the right choice in hiring Fernando Alonso? Personally, I think he's quite old. I can see similarities like to when Michael Schumacher rejoined the Mercedes team and he just wasn't the same driver. Let me know your thoughts on that. I hope to be proven wrong, but I don't think it's a long-term solution for Renault. And I think maybe they must look to someone like maybe a Pierre Gasly, because Pierre Gasly doesn't have the best relationship with the Red Bull hierarchy. He's made no secret. He was very upset about the way he was handled, getting demoted, etc. So I don't think Gasly will jump back into the big team. I think that bridge is burnt. So who could we see for the long term at Renault if this does become a very good car? Maybe Max Verstappen once again, if it is a race-winning car or knocking on the door. Let me know your thoughts on that. But the future is very bright for the yellow team. Of course, next season going to be Alpine racing. So we're going to get a nice fresh livery. And will we see a fresh Fernando Alonso? Remember, he's 39 years old now, and he wants to race in all these other series. So is he going to have that same passion and drive in F1? It remains to be seen. Moving on to Racing Points. They're going to be called Aston Martin Red Bull Racing from next season. They've dropped Sergio Perez. They've kept Lance Stroll, of course. His dad owns the team. That's a no-brainer. And they're bringing in Sebastian Vettel. But this could be a blessing for Sergio Perez. He could end up in a Red Bull seat. And who would have thought that? I mean, I really hope he gets that. I really does, because that would just rub the nose into the Aston Martin and Racing Point boys. But Lance Stroll missing. He was taken ill. Apparently, it wasn't anything to do with COVID. So Hulkenberg, man, if you're an ex-F1 driver, just go to every race. I'm sure you can get a pass. You can get in the door. Just turn up, because Racing Point's reserve drivers are not Hulkenberg. They're reserve drivers are, I think the first one is Stoffel Van Dorn and the second one is Gutierrez. And they both wasn't there. Hulkenberg was. He's like, hey boys, I brought my crash helmet with me as well, just in case. And of course, he's back in the saddle again. So limited running. I mean, qualifying, he was just trying to get the laps in, get some experience with the car. We could see he wasn't right on the pace, but then come the race, my God, he scored points. Where did he finish? P8 or something? Incredible. Hulkenberg, hats off if I had one to you, mate. Great to see you back in there again. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And it was like, a podium, the way they celebrated at the end of that Grand Prix. And credit where it's due. Good on you, lad. And Sergio Perez is leading his teammate in the World Championship fight. And the Racing Point, the way they allocate their components is if there's an upgrade, etc., they give it to the guy who's winning the championship. So I do hope they give it to Sergio Perez now. Because if they're a proper team, they want to maximize their points in the championship, give it to Sergio Perez. But of course, he's leaving. What do you think about that? Let me know. Have they made the right decision hiring Sebastian Vettel, firing Sergio Perez? Drop the comment below about that one. But future's bright for them. So Aston Martin, hopefully going with the British Racing Green for next season, and some interesting times ahead. So let's move in. So it's been a tricky few races for the McLaren outfit. After looking like being at the front of the midfield battle, Renault have really overtaken them of late. And also Racing Point, I just edged that little bit further ahead. But a good day at the office for Carlos Sainz, bagging some good points. Disappointing to see Lando Norris retiring. And the partnership next year is definitely going to be a spicy one. We've got Danny Rick joining the team. Of course, they'll be switching over to the Mercedes power unit, which looks like... was it a good or a bad thing at the minute? The Renault looks to be coming good, but Mercedes still looks like more of a solid engine and more, for future proof, you could say as well. So what's your thoughts on McLaren so far this year? I've been very impressed. They're a strong start. They've sort of tailed off in the midfield. They've struggled with the front end of the car. Apparently, they're trying to get the nose right, etc. And that's going to be the key development battle for the rest of the season. Next, over to the Haas team. So the Haas, quite impressive. They scored a couple of points this weekend. They finished ahead of one of the Ferraris. They was battling throughout. Romain Grosjean, surprisingly, bringing home the bacon this weekend. Never been the biggest fan of him. I'm still not. But in these tricky conditions, he delivered. Even with like a damaged hand. Apparently, there was some gravel off the back of Kimi Raikkonen, over 120 odd miles an hour. Struck his hand and had a bit of an injury from that. So he had to carry that through the Grand Prix. But good performance from him. K-Mag as well, having some good scraps. So it looks like that car isn't the worst one on the grid. It looked terrible to drive last year. So they've taken a step forward. But of course, that power unit of the Ferrari in the back of the car is not helping them at all. But they're still outperforming the likes of the four-time champ of Sebastian Vettel. So some progress made there. Gunter would have been happy this weekend, I would have thought. And who do you see as their driver lineup next year? Can Callum Ilott, who missed out, who's supposed to be in the car this weekend, could we see him for a drive for next year? I would certainly hope so, but not at the expense of Kevin Magnussen. I'd like to see him remain, and I would like to see Grosjean check out of the sport. Let me know if you agree with that. If not, who would you like to see in there as well? Over to the Alfa Romeo. So Alfa Romeo, it was the landmark weekend for Kimi Raikkonen, 323 Grand Prix. So I think when he made his first start, Lando Norris was, I think, 1 year old. That just shows how long this guy has been around, and how long will we see him remain in the sport? You've got a question maybe how motivated he will be if he's still languishing around the back of the grid. I mean, he likes fast cars. We know that. And could we see him make a switch maybe in the future over to maybe an Indy Series, maybe a Rally Championship? Do let us know on that. But Giovinazzi, he scored a point. And, I mean, I think he's had a good chance at it. I think it's not too big a risk now. If you chuck Mick Schumacher in there, I think it'd be great, an endorsement, the Schumacher name back in the sport. Schumacher's, of course, leading the F2 Championship. And if he wraps it up as well, I think it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Just chuck him in the car. He's only going to get better over the years. And I'd love to see Schumacher take that role from Giovinazzi, if Raikkonen remains, that is. If Raikkonen does go, maybe keep Giovinazzi just for a bit of stability for a year, and then bring Mick in to replace him. But let me know your thoughts on that one as well. And so we're going to move over to AlphaTauri. So AlphaTauri, Gasly, again, leading the team, bringing home some decent results this year. Of course, he's had that race victory. But again, they've been shocked by the decision of Honda to leave the sport. So that's going to have some big repercussions. I expect them to go back to being Ferrari-powered because they are an Italian outfit, and it makes the most sense. I mean, they'll probably get a good deal. It probably logistically just works out a bit better for them. But who do you think will power them? Will Renault? Renault would be obliged to. I think Ferrari would be willing to. And of course, they had that partnership before. But let me know your thoughts on that. Maybe they keep the Honda package as well from Red Bull if that does get taken over. But for long term, I'll probably see it going to Ferrari power. So, of course, they've got Gasly. They've got Kvyat in the seat at the moment. Kvyat, can we see him sticking around for much longer? I think they probably will replace him. It looks like Yuki Tsunoda, who's having a seat fitting just the other day. So they're lining him up for probably the next couple of seasons, and we'll see him in Friday practice for a couple of the events, probably towards the end of this season. Would you like to see Yuki Tsunoda replace Danny Kvyat? Let us know in the comments about that. So moving into Ferrari. So Ferrari languishing down the order in the video and in the real life F1 as well. And they've really struggled. Of course, going into this season, they expected to have a jet engine in the back. And they've got basically, RD engine, if anything. And they've really struggled this season. And it's been hard to watch. I mean, the whole concept of their car, was about having a really quick engine. So the concept was to have more downforce on the car. And that's really hampering them in a straight line. And it's just they're probably trying to take a bit of that off throughout the season. But it's not easy when your basic concept is about having a quick engine in the back. So, and of course, they've been focusing on that irregularity about the fuel flow, etc. So they've had to modify their engine. I expect to see them bounce back quicker than most people expect. I expect to see them take a big step forward next season. And they need to, because if they're still languishing, around the back end of the points, you have to question Ferrari's motivation. They pump a lot of money into this sport, and with the new budget caps, etc., they've not really been in favor of that. But Charles Leclerc, he is a world champion, just waiting to have the right car. I think if that Ferrari was as quick as it was last year, I think he would have been right up there challenging Lewis this year. But it's been a shame. And Sebastian Vettel, you can see his motivation is completely gone. The relationship's not there. I think he will be rejuvenated next season. Carlos Sainz coming in. I think there'll be a good dynamic with the two younger drivers. And let me know your thoughts on how Ferrari will perform next season. Do you expect them to take a big step, or do you think they're going to be languishing around for a good couple of years? So let's move in now to the Williams boys. And the Williams still looks like one of the slowest cars on the grid. They've still got work to do on the chassis, on the, just the basic package of the car. We know we've got a quick engine in the back of it. It was unfortunate for George Russell this weekend. George Russell, he had that incident. It broke the rear suspension. Raikkonen did get a 10-second penalty for that as well, for, putting Russell out of the race, which was only fair. And George Russell, how much longer can Williams hold on to him? Because he is a great talent. Still yet to score a point, I think. So, it's been tough for him this year again, but at least he's been racing other cars, not just Robert Kubica like last season. So Latifi in the other seat, I could see him replaced if he doesn't, buck up his ideas. He's had a tough season as well. It's a tough season to come into the sport with all this uncertainty, being cooped up throughout the race weekend. And very difficult car to drive as well. Of course, they've been taken over by, was it DeLorean or something, Capital. They're keeping the Williams name. Sad to see the Williams family leave. But I think, long term, there'll be more investment. They'll be able to, do more research and development and maybe push that car a bit further up the order. So yeah, that's going to be it for today, boys. Just a bit of a recap, and we're going to have a special guest next time, and we'll try and mix it up every week, have a different guest. Who would you like to see? Would you like to be on the show? Do let me know, and we'll see you again soon for another F1 podcast. Take care. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Bye-bye.